Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Keltic and today I'm going to be breaking down my brand new EP called Poltergeist, which is out via SoundMuseum on all streaming platforms. Today we're going to be taking a look at the first track, which is called Umbra. Umbra is a very special project because it shows what sort of perception I have of drum and bass and to what extent can I take it and show my vision as how drum and bass could be perceived in my head. So let's straight dive into it. Also, whatever I am showing you and the process I did, it's a thing that I do, so whatever I'm saying, take it as a grain of salt because I may not be perfect in my teaching techniques. It is just something that I use and I work with on a day-to-day basis. So your opinions may differ as to why I'm using certain things. So if y'all have any opinions, any comments, anything, I'm open to each and everything of it in the comment section below. So go crazy. So as any other project sounds, you need a starter sound to drag out the entire process. So this was the first sample that came into mind. So this sound was the starting of everything that happened in Umbra. You will see where I've used the sound and how I've used it, manipulated it, and chopped it into ways so I can incorporate it into the drop. Then second, we have a bunch of risers. That's riser 1. And I have another riser down here. Then when we go into the intro segment, I have added another impact just so the pre-intro can blend in perfectly and then the intro can start building up. Then I have a synth loop. And on this synth loop, I remember I put 2 distortion plugins. One is Rift. Rift is the most goated distortion plugin there is, so make sure you get it while you still can. I'm using this preset, Slice Transfer. Also with presets and plugins like this, I usually jumble around different VSTs and see what sounds nice because I like incorporating movement and a lot of variety in plugins like this. Then I have a Trash by Isotope, and the only thing that I have changed here is the modulation. It was on 35, I've increased it on 50%. Then I have a 3 millisecond attack and a release of 20 milliseconds, and I've reduced the mix down to 68%. Without both of the VSTs, it sounds like this. Very plain, there's some sort of movement, but it's not enough. And with the VSTs enabled, there's a lot of movement automatically. Then I have this one FX one shot here, so it moves into the build-up segment. Then I have another sample here, which is a vocal chop. Then I have a break loop, which is being automated by a plugin called as the KHS filter. The greatest thing about Kilohertz that they have a lot of free VSTs out there and free plugins. This is one of the free plugins that I downloaded and I've been using it since a very long time. So get your hands on all of the Kilohertz plugin bundles there is. Whatever VST that I used, I'm going to be linking down in the description below. I've automated the cutoff, so it initially starts to build up. As you can see, I'm automating the cutoff here. Then it again cuts off here and then it again starts off. So you don't want to tease your elements very early on into the drop, because if you do it, then there is no build up, there is no sort of storytelling. And with automations like these, you can introduce a lot of variations and a lot of foreshadowing as to what's to come. Then I have my signature bass that I use always. I've done nothing much only thing that I've added on this bass is a little bit of distortion. That's it. There was another distortion here, but I changed it to a tube one because it was very heavy. I guess it was on overdrive and I changed it to tube and increased the drive a little bit. Then I guess that pretty much covers what I've used in the intro. And yeah, there's another sweep down effects here. Then as when the build-up progresses, these three samples are the same thing. I just copy and pasted them here. The only thing that's different here is I've used three different one-shots, and there is this effects thing, a reverse effects thing that I've used here. And these are the one-shots that I've used. Then this is the second one-shot. And this is the third one shot, but on this there is a Rift plugin again over here, and this is what the Rift is doing. So I'm using this preset called as Cosmic Drops. It's somewhere in this preset bank here, and the only thing that I've changed here is from changed it from hard to smooth, increase the blend a little bit and increase the drive and output just a little bit, and I've cranked the drive at signal all the way up. So without Rift it sounds like this, and there's a utility automation here as well. Now with Rift it gives it a little bit of delay and distortion somewhat. You could hear that slight distortion crunch in that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for how the intro progresses. Then we go on to the build-up segment. The only different thing in the build-up is I haven't used a build-up loop like each and every drum and bass producer does. I have used the elements from my drop in the build-up, so there's a little bit sort of familiarity with how the build-up progresses, because let's say for example you're using an alternative build-up, right? It feels very different. In certain cases it sort of has the same cadence as to the energy of the track, but over here I wanted to introduce the drops of the elements here, so there's a little bit of familiarity in it. So I have a kick pattern here that I've pasted here, then it gradually becomes faster and faster here. And there's another KHS filter here which is automating the high pass, the cutoff. I'll solo this. So it slowly becomes from thin to thicker and thicker and thicker. Then I have another thing here which is being automated by the KHS filter, and over this I have a automation that's automating the low pass, and it's a snare thing from my track. I'll play it here. So it opens up gradually. Then I have a bass loop that has a filter again on it and a infiltrator VST on it. So what the infiltrator is basically doing, it's adding a little bit of distortion over time as and when the buildup happens, and with the filter it's automating the cutoff from the low pass itself. So it opens up, and as and when it's opening up there's distortion also coming with it, so you feel a certain rush, a certain feel of urgency that okay, the drop's coming and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So with drops like these and with build-up drops like this, you need to make sure each and every element is either flowing or there is some sort of automation in it so it breathes well. Because if you have so many automations lined up and it's not doing anything, then you're just missing out on potential of that build-up being one of the best build-ups you've ever created in your entire life. So always use automations and frequency modulation to your advantage. So I'll show you what exactly the filter is doing. I'll disable the infiltrator for now. I'll solo this. I'll enable the infiltrator now, so you'll hear what the infiltrator and filter are both doing exactly. See, it adds that sort of upper harmonics when it's coming in slowly and slowly, because there isn't any sort of respace here. I usually use a respace at the very 8 bars end of my build up, but I wanted to do something different here because obviously you need to come up with creative ways to introduce your build up some way or the other, right? So that's what I've used. Without both of the plugins, it sounds like this. It already sounds heavy, but I didn't want it to incorporate heavy element yet. I wanted it to open up over time. That's why I've used these two plugins here. And then I have used synths from my drop here, which are being automated again by a KHS filter. See, it opens up and there's some sort of tail here that is going with the vocals. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the build up. Now let's go on to the drop segment. Okay, so with the drop, there are total 5 layers of synths that I've used throughout the track. The only things that separating them into them blending and being all muddy is the frequency automation and in what context I have used them. So there is a technique called as call and response. You basically do it with bass patterns and a lot of different things of the sort, but in here I wanted the melodies to speak to each other so they have a clear sort of communication and there's a lot of variety and movement going on throughout the track. I've done the same thing with the bass, but with the melodies it sounds alive and it sounds there is a purpose of why it sounds like that rather than it just being there itself in the track. So I'll solo my melody group and I'll show you what exactly I mean by the call and response pattern. So it feels like they both are talking to each other. Like there's this pattern here, then there's this pattern here, then there's this pattern here, and it's changing according to how I've set the call and response to, with some occasional pitch bends and filter automation. So with the start of every synth, you obviously group it all and then you EQ it out. There's a separate EQs on the synth itself, but on the group I have a EQ which is cutting a little bit of the lows and a little bit of the highs, and I have some side EQs and some mid EQs with linear phase set to medium. Then I have a OTT set at 27 depth with time at 100%, with highs increased and mids increased, and all of the lows are taken out, with upward compression of 149 and downward compression of 65%. Then I have a disperser, so it has that sort of bubbly feeling. It smooths out some of your harsh frequencies with the hand. That's what I've noticed, so I always use a disperser. Get it, it's a very great plugin by Kilohertz. Then I have a reverb automation that's being automated in the second drop. Also, there is a soothe that's taking care of all of the harsh frequencies, harsh hand frequencies here. Then I have a pitch shifter which acts as a pitch bend of sorts. So without the pitch shifter, it sounds very like it's just there. It's not doing anything like the synth itself. Even though there is a lot of natural detuning that's happening with the synth itself, I wanted the synths to have a little bit of character. So that's why I use the pitch shifter. So this is without the pitch shifter. Now with the pitch shifter. You see, there's a slight dip of pitch and then it goes back up. That's what gives the synths a lot of character. Like, it's the small things that can take your sounds a really long way. And I'm using a utility to sidechain. again, I know not the most convenient way. I've started using Shaperbox, but back then this is what that worked for me, and it still works. Like the sidechain is really snappy and it's really clean, but with Shaperbox you can achieve a more cleaner and tighter sidechain. You could obviously use utility if you don't have Shaperbox, but for the time being it worked for me, so I just stuck with it. So let's go on the first synth layer. So over here I'm using a random preset from Vital. I had this in a preset pack and I don't use Vital. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I just cycle through different presets and I found this patch exact. Then I have a stock OTT that's doing a lot of work here. Then I have a EQ which is cutting the lows and it's giving a little bit of high end to the sense itself. Then I have another EQ that's dipping a little bit of the frequencies that I don't want itself. Then I have an audio rack here that has reverb again on it, and a utility which is giving it a gain of 20 dB, then a limiter which is again giving it an input gain of 14 dB. I set one portal to have a little bit of effects tail with it, and then I had added this portal with dry and wet set to this level. So without like any of this, my first synth layer sounds like this. Yeah, so this is what it sounds without any of the effects is on. Now with my effects rack. Then on the second synth layer I have a serum, a random patch that I used in here, and another EQ. I just copy and pasted the same rack I had from this to here, so I don't need to work a little bit more on it. The only thing I guess I changed was I removed both of the portals from this sound itself. That's it. And I added another EQ with a little bit boost in the highs. Then on the main sound of the serum synth track is this one, which is again being automated by the filter, I believe. Yes. Again, a totally random serum patch that I had. Then I use the same OTT in this one, and I added a erosion with a white noise with the same EQs from this synth track here, with the same reverb, and over here I just removed a little bit of the highs, and then at the end I added a Pro Q3 which is cutting the lows and is giving depths here around the mid frequencies, and I guess that's basically it. And with the other rack also I have the same thing down that I have over here. I don't overcomplicate my sounds. If it sounds very good on the first serum rack, I copy and paste it down. So there's a lot of cohesiveness with the track itself. In the B segment of the serum synth track, I'm using the same sample that I incorporated in the first part of the track, which is in the pre-intro part, and it sounds like this. And then the again synth comes in here. So over here I just like chopped it up a little bit, and the bubbly sounds you hear when it cut off here, it's the disperser from the synth track doing that. See? That slide attack and that sort of bubbly feel to it. So I've just cut a little bit of the lows here, boosted a little bit of the mids, and then I have a Tal Reverb 4 plugin with this preset on here. That's it. I just usually use presets from different plugins and I just go with it. If it sounds nice, then it sounds nice, because I don't want to be like a total nerd and be like, oh, it does this at this specific frequency or like, nah, I'm not that sort of guy. If I like it, then I'll use it like that. I don't obsess behind some of the stuff that I use on a day-to-day basis, because then that's the fun of the stuff gone for me. Then let's go on to the bass group segment, the fun stuff of the project. I'll solo and I'll show you all how the bass sounds like. So in the bass group, there isn't a lot happening with the call and response. There's just like there's a primary sound, and there's a layer, and then there's my signature respace that I'm using here. So on the bass group itself, I'm not doing too much. I'm using a utility for the sidechain again. Then I have a SSL native comp with attack set at 3, release set at 100 millisecond, hold set at 27, the threshold set at negative 12.7 dB, and ratio set at 4.96 to 1 ratio, with auto gain enabled, and the low cut being at 540 hertz. That's basically it. And erosion with a little bit of noise. If I remove the erosion, it sounds like this. Very dull. With erosion, it sounds like this. So it's more present, and you could hear the bass on your phone speakers. And with the layer, it's sorry, I forgot to show what patch I'm using. So I'm using this bass that I made on Vital a long while ago. Shout out to Silex for showing me this preset. He is a very crazy drum and bass producer, and he uses Vital for some of the stuff he does. So he showed me this one preset patch. I made it with him. So I forgot what I did here. This has been ages since I am using Vital, so forgive me. So I added a EQ, and I cut a little bit of the sides from it, and this is the mid side EQing. Then I added a little bit of saturation by using the stock saturator from Ableton. Goated plugin, there is, use it. And it's stock, so you can't go wrong with it. With the drive set at 16 dB and with no clip function enabled. And I've reduced the width to about 66% again. Then I have another EQ here, which is cutting just a little bit of the lows and a little bit of the highs, and a limiter with an input gain set to 96 dB. And this is the sub EQ. I've isolated the sub from the bass itself because I want it to be different, because when you are using a patch like this with the bass itself in it, sometimes there's a lot of phasing issues. So always isolate your subs from your main serum patches. It's really easy. Like if you were to go in your serum patch and you see you have your oscillators and then there's a sub at the end, just duplicate the track by pressing Ctrl D. Then you have your serum rack, then you have your serum thing down. Then disable those 3 oscillators and just have your sub playing, and remove anything that was used in your first original patch, and you have your sub isolated. Next we have my signature Reese bass. Now this rack I made myself. I'm very proud of this rack because, you know, I made it. So so on this rack I have a EQ, which is dipping a little bit of the mids and highs by using the make dynamic feature in Pro Q3, and cutting just a little bit of the lows. Then I have a EQ8, which is cutting the sides of the sound, and a mid-side plugin, a mid-side EQ, which is boosting a little bit of the mids. Then I have a OTT set at 25 depth, time set to 39%, and I boosted a little bit of the highest bits, and the same upward compression settings that I had, have just increased it just a little bit. Then I have a snap heap that has a disperser in it, a chorus in it, and a distortion plugin again in it. These are the settings, so y'all can feel free to pause anytime in the video and just copy these settings. I don't like to gatekeep. Then a saturator again set at 1.4 drive. Then a reverb plugin again here, which is being mapped to this macro here. So whenever I use a reverb swell, I always introduce it at the end of a bar. So I'll show you what it sounds like in context. So let's say And if I disable this reverb plugin, you will know exactly why it sounds so good here. Because it's very abrupt. It's ending on a very abrupt note, and I would like to have something which gives a better closing of that sound, so it blends into the other sound very nicely. So reverb swells are a very brilliant way of introducing different sorts of variation, movement, variety, flow in tracks. So always use reverb swell automation. And without my rack, my Reese bass sounds like this. With the rack, sounds very thick and very in your face. Then moving on to the B segment of the drop, I've used different basses from different sample packs and I've created a makeshift bass pattern. I'll solo it and I'll show you. I haven't EQ'd any of these sounds. I've just done a little bit normal volume balancing because I already have a powerful rack. So why would I need to overcomplicate more and add more distortion and, you know, certain processing elements here and there. So never overdo your sounds. Always keep it where it's intended to be. If it sounds good as is, then just use it. If it doesn't sound good, then you can always add more distortion and more EQs on top of it to make it sound nice. So that's the bass segment done. Next we shall go to the drum bus or to the drums. And then on the second drop, I know I changed up the rhythm just a little bit. So I like to give a lot of different rhythms to my drums because it creates variation, and when there's a sort of rhythm break that's happening again throughout the drop, it catches in the listener more. But you can't always be random with your drum breaks. You need to have some sort of context as to why you're doing that rather than I just want to do that, because then it feels forced and it just feels like it's not part of the whole story that you're trying to tell with the track that you're working on. So with the drum bus, I have a SSL native drum strip with the low frequency enhancer and high frequency enhancer on, and the transient shaping thing on as well, with the knobs set to 44 Hz and 5.60 on the low frequency enhancer, and then on the high frequency enhancer I have a drive set to 5.40 and the hertz set at 6518 Hz, and with just a little bit of transient shaping with the gain amount set to 51, speed set to 0.34. Then the next I have a EQ here. I just wanted to see how the frequency was looking like, so that's how I'm using the EQ here. And then a glue compressor with the ratio set at 4 and it's soft clipping. You could use a glue compressor as a soft clipper and as a side chaining thing if you didn't know. Then next we have the snare. This is the main snare. So on the snare I have a plugin called as Newfangled Punctuate with the snake rack fader preset, a glue compressor with the threshold set at -18 to makeup being around 13.7 dB and ratio set at 4. Then a EQ which is getting rid of the lows that I don't want in the snare itself and dipping a little bit of the mids, and a EQ which is cutting the highs off. Now with this particular style of drum and bass, when I played the drums, you heard that the drums are sounding there's like a sort of high pass cut on it. It sounds like almost like some sort of lo-fi drums. That's the sort of style I like to go for because it's a very famous style by Manu and the Karakal project, both of the goats of the drum and bass industry. And Like, I've been studying their sound since a very long time, so I know what works and what shouldn't work in this sort of drum and bass track. Hence the reasoning for cutting down the sound. Then I have another snare layer which sounds like this. And then one more snare layer donated by the goated Silex. Love you, Silex, if you're watching this video. So this is a tonal snare layer that I've used here because it gives it a more of a unique sort of touch to it. Without these layers, without any other layers, I'll just show you how my snare would sound like in context. Very empty and hollow, but with the layers enabled. See, there's a lot of a body and there's a lot more of a, what's the word that I'm looking for? Body and depth. Yes, but there's a lot more body and depth to the snare itself. Always layer your snares, layer your drums, because you may get very interesting and unique sort of sounds when you're layering your drums. Then the next part that we have here are the percussion loops. So for the first percussion loop, I've not done anything. Just as is, I've just reduced the volume by -9. And on the second one, this is where things get interesting. So I have a filter that is cutting off a little bit of the highs here, and then I have a vocoder. Now you will say, Celtic, why a vocoder? Why everything out of all VSTs? Why a vocoder? So I saw a YouTube video where the guy was saying the vocoder acts as a gate, and you can also get rid of the bands here. So if I were to increase the bands by, let's say, 24 and solo the sound here, it's gonna sound like this. I'll remove my EQ and my glue compressor, and this is how it sounds. But if I were to set it to 4, it's very snappy and it has that sort of gated feel to it. Now if I add a EQ, you almost get that sort of lo-fi house shuffle drums that you used to hear back in the day, and it gives it a very nice accent of sorts with the perks. And if I were to play these both together, you will know exactly what I mean. It gives us a nice sort of accent layer. Now if I were to play this with the whole drums in context, this and this, you'll know exactly. So this thing is going in the background, but it's giving it a sort of groove along with it. And with the snare layers and with the kick itself, it sounds very nice. Also, I realized I didn't break down what I did with the kick. Silly of me. So on the kick itself, again, I have a newfangled punctuate with the kick thickener preset on it. Then I have a V clip, which is soft clipping the kick, and a glue compressor again, which is acting like a soft clip. But over here, I've given it an attack of 1, release of 6, and ratio of 4, where the threshold has been set to -6.35 and the makeup set to 13.17 dB. And always mono your kicks. Trust me, just start monoing your kicks, man. If I further move on, then there is one more drum pattern here. Again, I just copied the vocoder settings here, but the only thing that's different in this EQ is I haven't completely cut off all of the frequencies. I've given a little bit breathing space to this one. Without the vocoder and without the EQ and the compressor, it sounds like this. With the vocoder, it sounds like this. Almost sort of gated feel to it. And if I were to play this entire segment here, see, layering. Always remember, layering will work to your advantage always and always. So never go wrong with layering, because layering certain sounds is what will take your track again a really long way. Then that's pretty much it, I guess. I didn't add anything else. And yeah, there's this variation pattern here where I changed up the rhythm and I added like these two snares here. So this is a snap which is offset on purpose, and there's another clap here. So the only reason why I offset this, so the snap goes into the clap like this. So the snaps first transient hit comes here and then it goes into the clap. So it gives it a really nice swing to it. And then gradually I incorporated it here where the clap comes first, then the snap comes here, then again the clap comes here, because it always should feel like a momentum, a flow. You can always offset it on purpose, but then the listener will get tired and there would be no variation. So always play with drums with a different sorts of placement where you can achieve a full variation of sounds. And that's pretty much about the first drop. Let's go to the second drop itself. With the second drop, I haven't done much. I've just changed up the way how the synth sounds like. I'll play from here. Also realize how I'm introducing the drums each and every time. Like there's a space here and then again there's some space here and then I have another alternating drum pattern that's coming somewhere over here within context, not like directly it's just like dropping on your face. There's a specific purpose and you should always remember when you're doing drum and bass like this, you need to have some sort of element or some sort of weird swing in order to make it more catchier and more rememberable. Fuck, my fucking dyslexia is gonna kill me one day. Always introduce random drum breaks, always introduce different sorts of variation within the drum patterns, because if you have a very stagnant drum pattern, it's not gonna take your track anywhere, right? And the only last thing that I added here in the bass segment was this Reese lead. That's it. I added one more lead, and this time I had added a arpeggiator here. It sounds like this. So this is again a random preset patch I found. Then I added one more riff here and then a EQ to get rid of some of the harsher frequencies within the sound itself. So this arpeggiator is set at the rate of 1:8, and the preset that I'm using for the arpeggiator is thumbs down, and the swing is set to 16 and gate set at 50. Without the arpeggiator, it sounds like this. Again, very boring, very dry. So we're gonna add more variation and flow by adding the arpeggiator, and we have this. It's the simple things. It's always and always the simple things that can take your sound to a much nicer level. Yeah, so this is the whole vocal group. I'll solo out the vocals without you know what, this time I'm gonna mute all of the racks itself and I'll show you how it sounds without all of the VSTs enabled in here. This is how the vocal sounds originally. So I started off with adding a utility again as a sidechain thing. Then I added a EQ that's taking care of the resonant peaks and dipping a little bit of the mids and the high mids, so it doesn't sound as much muddy and boxy. Then I added a rack, which is one of my signature racks that I use. I found this rack in a very old preset pack and I've been using it ever since. With the OTT cranked up to 11%, there's a loads and loads of macros set here with post-processing delay and F delay. Then I added a Camel Crusher with the British Clean preset and again a utility for sidechaining and a de-symbolizer with these sort of settings and a de-esser with this setting.
And you know you're getting older when you're realizing that the love was true.
And in whole context.
And you know you're getting older when you're realizing that the love was true. Would you
So yeah, that is Umbra for you guys. I hope you guys learned some new stuff while I was explaining why I made this project and the entire process behind it. So again, I'm gonna remind you guys, take whatever I'm explaining here as a grain of salt. This is a process that I'm used to doing. I'm not a very terrific explainer. I can explain in the most best way I can. So if you guys have any doubts, any questions, anything, you can always ping me in my Instagram. All of my socials will be linked down in the description below. And if you guys have any sort of questions with this release or any of the tracks that I've released, I'm always happy to help you guys. You can text me any time of the day and I will reply. Let's aim for 500 likes on this at least, and like 30 comments to see if I can get some sort of flow going. This is me, Keltic, signing off, and I'll see you in the next project breakdown, which is Closer. See you guys in the next one. Take care.